All right, hey there, welcome back. Today, we're going to add some animations to our little log enemy here so that instead of just kind of sliding along the ground, they actually have some animations when they chase us. So let's dive right in and get started. All right, let's dive right in. Where we left off last time, we have our whole system here where I can walk around, I can attack the enemy, cause some knockback to them, and they can cause knockback to me. You can see right now there's already this tearing, so let's deal with this tearing right away so that we don't have to worry about that anymore. So the first thing that I did to fix the tearing in another version of this project is right away I'm going to go look at all of my art assets here. I'm going to make sure that they all have their filter mode set to point and their resize algorithm, actually compression set to none. And let's use Mitchell for the resize algorithm and apply. That alone isn't going to fix a whole lot, but there's something else I'm going to do that's going to fix the rest of it. So in my art folder where I have all of my sprites, I'm going to right click and choose create. I'm going to create a new sprite atlas, and this is going to be one of the things that's going to help Unity know that this isn't a 3D texture, which is what causes that weird ripping, because Unity is treating it as if it were a 3D texture and helps it know that this is a 2D object. So I'm just going to call this sprite atlas. I'm going to set its compression to none, its filter mode to point. I'm going to keep its type to master. I'm going to include it in the build, allow rotation, type packing. I'll leave the padding at 4. I'm not going to generate maps, but I will add objects. So I'm just going to click this plus symbol here. And rather than choosing the sprite sheets individually, I'm just going to grab that entire art folder. Everything in the art folder is going in here. And then I'm going to preview the pack, which is going to generate a little thing down here which shows every single sprite I might need to make, included in this one 1024 by 1024 atlas. Now, by making that change alone, those two changes anyway, if I hit play here, I'll notice that the tearing is gone. There's this weird, almost like worm-like crawl that comes up, if you'll notice, but I've tried making a build of this, and I'll do one right now, and it goes away in the build. So I'm going to go to File, Build Settings, and I'm going to make a build really quickly. I will save it to my desktop, and I'll fast forward through this because you don't need to watch that progress bar, but I'll meet you back here in just a minute. Okay, so I have my build made. I'm going to open that up now. I have it forced to be the smaller 400 by 300 thingy thing, resolution, that's what that word is. But you can see if I move around in here, I don't have that weird kind of like worm crawl. Oh, but what's that? Hold on, let me see if that's just being caused by me recording. I'll be right back. Okay, yeah, that weird jump, that right there that you saw, that's happening because I'm recording right now. If I weren't recording, it wouldn't do that. I don't know why, because my laptop's weird. But anyway, so that weird little crawl is gone and the tearing is gone. So thank goodness we can just continue with this one method of doing stuff. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to my project here, and let's talk a little bit about enemy animation. So right now, the enemy has no animation. They're just always, well, I mean, they do, but they're not moving from one state to another. They're just always sleeping. So if I highlight my log here, look at my animator, and what I want is from sleeping to wake up, I have my wake up turned on, and then wake up automatically goes to walking, and then I want to make a maybe go to sleep animation that I can go from walking to go to sleep and back to sleeping when wake up is turned to false. So to do that, I'm going to grab my animation palette, and I'm going to dock it with my game here so I can see my little log. I'm going to go to my scene view here, zoom in on my little log, sorry if I'm sniffly. I've had a cold the last few days, which is also why these videos are later than I thought they would be. So, apologies. Anyway, I got my log here. I want to look at the wake up animation. So the wake up animation right now, I want to see which frames it's using. So I'm just going to collapse everything except for the sprite renderer. So it uses log 0, 11, 17, and 17. If you can't see that, I'm looking right here. And actually uses 5, 11, 17, and 17. So then I'm going to create a new clip. I'm going to call this go to, actually let's call it log go to sleep. And I'm going to save it in my animation folder, not just wherever it assumes I last saved something, in the log folder. I'll save it there. And I'm going to find my log here, and I'm just going to do those in reverse. So record, I'm going to do 17, and then I'm going to move out a little bit, and I'll do 11. Yeah, move out a little bit, and I'll do 5. And then a little bit further, and I'll do 5 again. So that'll be the go to sleep animation. There we go. And then it'll just pop right back into sleeping. I'm going to go to my animator. My go to sleep is going to be up here. I'm going to transition from walking to go to sleep, and then from go to sleep to sleeping. I'm going to highlight the transition from walking to go to sleep. I'm going to say no exit time, no fixed duration. I am going to add to it wake up is false. All right, cool. So let's take a look now at the log script. So if I look at my log, I want to grab my log script so that I can monitor these animations and make them move smoothly from one to another. So yeah, let's open this up. I'm going to let Visual Studio open up, and I'll meet you back here in just a minute. All right, so here I am in the log script. I already have a reference to my animator, my public animator anim, and then I'm already setting anim to be the animator component. Now, what I want to do is I want to start setting some states. So when I change state to walk, I want to also set that wake up to be true. So change state walk, I'm going to say anim.set bool, and the bool is wake up, I think. Let's make sure I have it right. Nope, lowercase w. I'm going to set wake up to be true. And let's see here. If current state is idle, and we're in between those two, I'm going to say else, and I'm going to say anim.setBool wake up to false. All right, cool. So in my fixed update here, I'm calling my check distance. I'm going to check the distance, and if we're less than or equal to the chase radius and we're greater than the attack radius, then I'm going to do this. And if we're not, then I'm going to set my wake up bool. So save my script here. I'm going to go back into Unity, and we'll hit play. And let's see what I broke. All right. Cool. So if I move up to my enemy here, they go to their wake up state, and then they go back to sleep. Oh, I don't want them to go back to sleep if they're in the chase radius, but that's fine. What I do want, though, so you see that weird little slide? That means that there's a fixed duration of the sleeping animation. So I'm going to go to my animator. I'm going to choose my transition between sleeping and wake up. I'm going to take away the exit time, open up the settings, and turn off the fixed duration. And let's try this now. So if I hit play, I'm gonna walk over here. So there's no weird, he jumps to awake right away. There's no weird sliding while he's still asleep. All right, cool. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm monitoring the move X and move Y so that I can use that blend tree I have for walking. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a new little function here, and I'm going to call this a private void change anim, and this is going to take in a vector2 as an argument. So vector2, we'll call this direction. All right, so what I want to do with this is when I'm using my temp here, my move position, I'm going to send that temp variable into my change anim. So I'm going to call change anim, and I'm going to do temp minus transform.position to get the actual amount of the movement that's happening. Now that amount of the movement here, if I just debug that out, is going to be really small, and it's not going to work for the way that we have the blend tree set up. So I want to debug.log direction. I just want to log that out and show you how small it's going to be. So I'm going to do some quick vector math to change that out in just a second, but I want to be able to show you the debug. So let's go back into Unity and hit play here. I'm going to go into the radius of that little log. It's weird. 0, 0. Why is it 0, 0? He was moving. What? Okay. I'll be right back. Oh, ha 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 ha. Okay, that's why. Because it's happening after the move position, I want to cut that from there, and I want to call the change anim right before that. So, because it's already moving, which means that the temp is the transform.position. So, let's try it now. Let's make sure that I'm right about my supposition. All right, so it's thinking. Here. Still no. That's weird. Okay, I'm going to continue as if this is working the way I expect it to, and it very well might. We'll see. All right. So what I want to do here is in my change anim is I want to check to see if the X part of the direction is bigger or if the Y part of the direction is bigger. So I want to say if direction.x is greater than direction.y. Actually, I don't just want, because that could be positive and negative, the y could be bigger, negative. I want to check their magnitude or their absolute value. If mathf.abs direction.x is greater than mathf.abs direction.y, and then else if mathf.abs direction.x is less than.
You'll have to refresh your app, but please read the INL lists. They are updated.
Mathf.abs direction.y. So if they're equal to each other, for some reason it's going at like 45 degrees, so that's going to be a weird edge case, but this should be fine. Okay, cool. I want to debug these out because I'm thinking it was a rounding thing, so I'll debug.log x is greater, and then down here debug.log y is greater. Okay, and now why did change state freak out? Do I have an issue with where I put all my thingy things? I do. I have one too many. There we go. That's also why these were acting weird. Okay, there I go sniffling again. Sorry about that. All right, cool. So we're going to go into Unity here. I'm going to let that compile for a second, and then let's test this out. So, all right. Little log. There we go. So it knows x is greater. Now it knows y is greater. Now it knows x is greater. Now it knows y is greater. Cool. So what I want to do with that then is I want to now decide if it's, so if x is greater, I want to decide if it's going left or right. So if direction.x greater than 0, if that's true, then I want to do something, and else if direction.x is less than 0. So if it's equal to 0, we won't do anything. And I want to do the same thing here, but with y. So if direction.y greater than 0, else if direction.y is less than 0. This is going to be a longer episode, so sorry if I haven't already apologized for it being a longer episode at the beginning. All right, cool. So if direction.x is greater than 0, then we want to do nm.setFloat move x to 1. And then, actually, let's do this as a separate function. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to create another little function here, private void set anim float. And I'm going to pass in a vector2. And I'll call this, I don't know, set vector. Okay, and then what I'll do here is I'll say nm.setFloat move x to setVector.x and nm.setFloat move y to setVector.y. And then if the x direction is greater than 0, which is also greater than y, then that means it's moving right. This needs to be a semicolon up here. Then that means it's moving right, which means I'm going to do set animFloat, and I'm going to pass in vector2.right, because it's going right. That makes sense. I'm going to copy this line here, and I'll paste it there, and there, and there. And if we're going left, it's going to be vector2.left. And if we're going up, it's going to be vector2.up. And if we're going down, it's going to be vector2.down. All right, cool. So I'll save this. I'll pop back into Unity here, and let's see if I broke it. So we're going to play here. It's going to think for a second. And mirror. 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 The last thing that we need to fix on this is just to make sure that if it's within the chase radius, it doesn't go back to sleep. To do that, I'm going to go into my log check distance. I'm going to add else if. So I'm going to change this from being just a flat else to being else if. And if our distance is greater than the chase radius. So I'm going to grab this whole statement here. Copy that. I'm going to paste it there. So instead of being less than or equal to the chase radius, if our distance is greater than the chase radius, then we're going to set wake up to false. But otherwise, we're going to leave that wake up on. So let's go back into Unity. Let that compile for one more time. and then we'll hit play and make sure that it's working the way we would expect it to. So if we play, all right, so he's up, or she. And there we go. And if we go out of range, back to sleep. Cool. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the description down below. Sorry this episode was a little longer, but that was something I know a few of you had wanted me to cover. So now we've got that out of the way, we can deal with enemy health next. You can follow me on Twitter, find out when I post a new video. You can join my Discord, where I'm chatting pretty much every day. And yeah, everybody out there, have yourselves a wonderful day.